I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. By the way, your scenario
Yeah.
for today,
Yeah. It's
um,
perfect.
well, it's perfect. I can speak to it
Good.
from the other side because
Good.
I do have those teachers that are feeling that way.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's great. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Ross.
Hi.
Hi,
Hello.
Honor. Hi, Natasha.
Hey,
Hello.
everybody.
Look at you all. I love to see you all on this screen. Oh my
Here's
gosh,
the
Follow, you have a
story.
scarf on. Don't try to
I
pretend
do.
like it's cold down there in New Orleans.
It is. I kid you not.
What is it, 50?
Yeah.
It dipped below 60. I got to tell you, people are freaking out. Roads are closed. The National Guard has been notified.
Oh my gosh,
It's
that
kind of
is
scary out there.
riot.
Well, Colorado can't figure out its identity right now. It was
Amen.
30 degrees
What are you
on Monday.
doing? I know.
70 on Saturday, and now it's 60. We don't even know. We just wear
I know.
shorts and
I
boots.
know. Shorts and boots. Yeah, absolutely. It's 24 here right now, which is highly unusual for us as well. I know. I don't even know.
That was
Bridget.
That happened fast. It dumped yesterday, and nobody expected it. It was awesome.
Did you get a snow day?
No, surprisingly. We
Oh.
always all it has to do is be a tiny little bit cold, and people are like, the roads.
We got a snow day. We got 2 snow days, actually.
That's nice. Nice. That's great. Natasha, can you turn your video on, or are you not in a space to do that? Which is fine.
I will turn it on. I'm getting some light.
Okay.
If I turned it on, you wouldn't have been able to see me. So hold on, please. A handy dandy space.
I can't wait to see what the backdrop is right now.
I know.
I just changed it.
She's in her pajamas.
Just so you know, we are recording, so if you want to get in front of the body, there you are.
Right here. Just for you. I changed it just for you.
Thank you. That's so great. So great. Well, wonderful. We have Jessica Catogio and Susan are going to join us in about 10 minutes. Jess is finishing up a class and Susan is in transit from somewhere, but this is a good full group today. Love it. Thank you so much. Ross, do you want to say hi? Ross is joining us today. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm just going to be listening in. Erin and I kind of take turns on these calls, and so it's just really good for me and Erin to hear what's going on. And I just want you to know that everywhere I go, I talk about this incredible building team and the incredible work you do. I was in Seattle last week presenting to heads of school in that association, and then we were in Los Angeles on Friday for a global gathering. So anyway, I'm looking forward to learning. So thank you.
Well, we're glad you're here for sure. I'm going to share my screen just so that I can put the agenda for the day up, if that works for you all. Okay, good?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Perfect.
Perfect. There we are. Great. So let's do just a kind of a quick temperature check or mindset check. The question I thought of today was, what is holding your attention right now? And it doesn't necessarily have to be about WLS at all, but just kind of what is holding your attention in this moment.
I guess I can go first.
Okay.
I always go with the first thing that comes to mind. So what's holding my attention is Christmas. Not the actual, the standardized gifts kind of exchange, but just like the spirit of it. And actually, I was on a call not so long ago, and that's what we were talking about. We didn't talk about Christmas, but we talked about giving and Giving Tuesday that's coming up December 3rd. So that's what's holding my attention, the exchange and the process of giving, like giving love from heart to heart. So.
Oh, that's sweet.
That is nice.
I'll echo that. I am what's holding my attention. I mean, I have some good news, I guess. officially, I've been working at DU for, I feel like full-time, but I'm officially a full-time faculty and
Congratulations.
officially that has been offered, and I've gone through training and orientation and all those things. And my first site visit will be to Hungary and Czech Republic. And so all of the partners have been sending me these links to their Christmas markets. And it is going to be, I am so excited. They love Christmas. It's crazy.
Oh, I can't even. I've heard so many things about the Christmas markets over there. Oh, I'm so jealous. I didn't realize it's going like now.
I'm super excited. So they've just been really hyping me up. And then one of the partners, I was telling her, she was here last week, and I told her that I used to sing in a rock band. And so coincidentally, her husband is in a rock band and performing on December 6th. They have sent me their playlists and invited me to sing with them. So I will be like Jimi Hendrix and become famous in Hungary, and you may never see me again.
Oh, that's okay. You can coach from anywhere, girl. You go ahead.
You sure can.
I'm like, oh, you want me to sing? Okay, this is a whole different conversation. Yeah, so I'm really excited about this upcoming trip, and it's going to be great. So
Cool.
I love it. Thank you,
Shayna?
sir.
For me, drama, a lot of drama. I inherited a school that, one, I created a little drama in coming in, but then I also inherited a faculty that had their own issues, and I've been working through them, and it's been never dull. That's the best I'll say. It's been never dull. Lots of drama. I had a teacher come to me the other day. Says, "Is there any way we can defuse the drama?" I said, "I'm working on it. I'm working on it." So so that's been the issue that I've dealt with the most.
Is that coming from you coming in, or is this existing
Well,
culture issue?
existing. It's primarily existing culture. But when I came in, I made a number of significant changes, which plays into our scenario today. And I think it's them coping with the changes, and then the combination of just existing stuff that had been festering for years.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh boy, you're sharpening
fun
skills, huh?
Yeah,
Maybe that you haven't paid attention to in some years yourself.
Exactly.
That's
but yeah, never dull.
That's great. Good for you. That's exciting.
All right. I'm just hanging on for dear life, so I don't even know what has my attention right now. Surviving the time change last week about did me in. So
what's happening with you? Why are you what is bringing you most stress?
It's just the world is just spinning out of control. So I'm just hunkering, and there's a full moon, and I work in an elementary school.
Yeah.
So do the math.
That is true. Oh man, I'm sorry. I hate when life feels like that.
That's when you find your best moments, right there.
Yeah, sure, Alicia.
Right. Right.
Hey, I went to Trader Joe's and I got some of those almond butter chocolate things, and that made
that's helped a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Hopefully, you also got some wine to go along with that.
I did not, but maybe I'll make a second run.
All right, we obviously need more time together. Oh, well, let us know how it's going and if we can help for sure. You will spin out of this eventually, and then you'll come to a screeching halt and be like, what is happening? Why is there calm?
I'll be so bored, yes.
I know. That's so true. That's so true. Honor, how about you?
Hi, everybody. What's holding my attention is the importance of family.
Yes.
My daughter, we knew would need a medical procedure, but the other day she suddenly needed it sooner than we were planning. So I learned that, you can't always schedule things. I'd been kind of putting off a lot of family stuff until 2 weeks from now when my kids have their birthdays and all the holidays start happening. And I thought my demand on the school side would be less, but life had other plans. So she's going to be fine. She's doing fine. She's with dad and grandma right now. But it was just a good reminder about balancing those priorities instead of trying to put anything on hold.
Sure. Yeah. And is she still in the hospital, or is
she will go home today. She could have gone home yesterday, but they gave us the choice and we decided to err on the side of caution. So she'll go home later today.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Well, I have been thinking about you nonstop. I can't even imagine. If there is anything that I can do to help, please do let me know.
Thank you. No, it's fine. I mean, the good thing is I knew this procedure was going to happen. So I'd already rehearsed in my mind how I was going to tell her about it and all that stuff.
Sure.
So that made it easier. It was not like an emergency. So
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Jess.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm late.
We are just doing a quick mindset check. What has your attention right now, if you wanted to jump in?
Oh, my attention. In terms of
Just in general, just
Yeah.
anything.
like life in general.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just am trying to be present in each place that I am in my life. School is really busy, home is busy, and it's all good. But I hate that feeling of being in one place and trying to think about the other things or do the other things. So I'm really trying to be intentional about being present.
Yeah. That's hard. It is hard. Oh, someone else. Maybe Susan. It's hard to see you guys all on here when I'm doing the share screen. I will go. I am, what is having my attention right now is kind of along those same lines as honor. I'm just thinking about family and the kids. The holidays are coming. This is my very favorite time of year. From Halloween through New Year's is my very favorite time of year. I love it so, so much. And Cyrus just had his 10th birthday. And he's just getting old before my eyes. He's getting old, right? And I am already in that space where I'm looking at him when he was little, and then I'm like, oh my God, when did this happen? It just happened so quickly, like everybody always says. But I just am feeling it, I think, more palpably now than I normally do. And so I'm just being aware of that and loving on him the way that he will let me love on him right now. The other day I took him to school and he goes, you don't have to walk me to my classroom. And I was like, the hell I don't. Everybody here knows you have a mother and I will walk you to your classroom. But it's happening. It's happening and I hate it. So that's where I am.
Oh.
Ross, what has your attention right now?
Okay, taking myself off mute. First of all, I'm just reminded of how wonderful this video technology is. Nathan, I haven't, of this crew, you're the one that I've never really, I guess I don't know you as well as the others. And so it was just great to see you and see you in your place. And Jessica was at our K-12 Purpose Summit along with Alicia, and remembering that Jessica's one of these few people that can raise one of her eyebrows and not the other, which is
I really mostly only get it if you're in trouble, so you better hope that my students know it well.
Yeah. And but yeah, it's just we were coming off a week of travel last week. We had a great conference in Los Angeles. Shayna and I had so much fun together. And it's just as I read the newspapers, I just I remember just the work that we do, which is so encouraging and so hopeful. This idea of bringing greater purpose to learning. And so that's been on my mind a lot lately, just kind of gratefulness. There's always things in life that are upsetting. I mean, just today we heard that Jennifer Klein, was the person that had Shayna's job for almost 8 years before Shayna took over. Her mother died unexpectedly while visiting her in Colombia, where she's a head of school in South America. So it's just life is constantly throwing things at us, and it's just great to, I love the way that Natasha, you started off this call by just, by gratefulness. And, I spent a lot of time focusing on that too. We have snow falling in the mountains now. And so ski season will be happening soon here in Colorado. And I can't wait to get my kids out in the snow. So I'm grateful for a lot of things like that. So yeah, I'm grateful to be here too and with everyone.
Oh, thank you.
I've been going around telling people how much I love Thanksgiving because I feel like it gets so left out of the conversation. It's my favorite holiday. And so I even put on Facebook, I love you, Thanksgiving. You're not forgotten.
We're not skipping past you this year. That's true. That's true. All right. Is anybody, Susan, are you on here yet? I couldn't tell. I thought I heard a ding dong, but maybe not. Okay. Okay, great. So I wanted to just do a kind of a quick check-in about VCIs. I've heard from, I think, all of you regarding your VCIs in the past day. So thank you so much for filling me in on the monthly check-ins that I'm doing just to see how it's going. You know, as always, let me know if anything comes up or if you are behind, you can't get your teams to connect with you, whatever the issues are, just let me know. And if you continue to, you know, CC me on your communication, then it's really easy for me to go back into your folder and see what the last bits of communication were on that. And also, if you are not in the habit of inviting the VCI calendar to your VCI sessions, please do that so I know when you're having it. And if you're meeting via Zoom or Skype or whatever, just put it in the notes, because sometimes if I can pop on, I would like to do that. My goal is to be a part of each of your VCIs once in the fall and then once in the spring. So I'm working on it. I've sat in on a handful of them so far, and I just love it. I learned so much by watching you work, so I really appreciate that opportunity. And in terms of the new tool that you've introduced, I'm just wondering if anybody has used any new tools this year that you wanted to share that might be good for anybody else. We don't have to do everybody, but if you have any, I'll put them in here. Any thoughts?
I don't know if it's necessarily new, but the calendar that you shared with me was really, really helpful.
The PBL planning calendar?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
good.
So that really helped teachers to have this visual, and they jumped right in there, and it was almost like it just changed their whole attitude. They got really excited, and
Awesome.
so this last call they had filled it in, and you know, once we got through working, you know, backwards and what that looked like, I think it was really helpful.
Good. Yeah, that's great. I'll link that in here if you haven't used that or at least haven't seen that. It's pretty much just a way to work with your teams to help them plan from the launch day to the day that the deliverables are due and all the things that have to happen in between. And you know, my recommendation is have them plan that out before they even start, with knowing what they're going to do on every day, not necessarily the specifics of every day, but know when their formative assessments fall, when they have space for work time, when they have time for Skyping or, you know, bringing people in, but whatever, having a good outline of what the whole project is going to look like. I think that empowers them to feel like they're in control.
We did have to have a lengthy conversation of when I asked them to put the assessments in, because they were really hung up on what are we assessing. And so I had to keep reminding them that we're planning backwards. So putting those formative assessments along the way will give you, you know, the kind of the benchmark as to how to plan your lessons and what you're going to inform those assessments with. So we had several conversations around that. So that might be something that comes up if anyone's planning on using it. But we did have to have lengthy conversations about the assessment.
Yeah. And just the fact that their placeholder, that's their placeholder, right? Knowing that they should do some form of assessment then, I think is good. Good.
Shayna?
Yes.
I'm in love with your wheel.
Well, thank you. My wheel of pedagogy.
It's a lovely wheel. It's beautiful and it's helpful.
Beautiful.
You know, the wheel of what do we call it? What do you call it?
Well, somebody in Jest this summer. Oh yeah, somebody. What's his name? In Jest called it the wheel of pedagogy, but I loved it.
I know, I did too. It was perfect. And we make, when you do a wellness check, a check-in at the beginning, how's the climate, what have you. I always use that. It's like, which one is bothering you? Which one is getting under your getting into your craw? Which one are you loving right now? And it just makes for a good conversation starter. And and again, visually it works, and it keeps us grounded in the whole process.
I love it. Yeah, thank you. I'll link that in here too if you haven't used it yet. It is awfully pretty, if I do say so myself.
Very pretty.
Thank you. Who put the SDG, the big list of SDGs?
I did. Just that wasn't really my answer to this question, but one of my teams wanted SDG stuff, and at first I was like trickling it out
Yeah.
Based on my knowledge of where they were with what, all of what they're doing. And then the other day I just said, you know what, ladies, I have this document with like 100 links. Do you want it? And this particular team said, yes, we do. And I said, you promise you're not going to be mad at me when you click on something and you're like, oh, this is only for elementary school. And they're like, no, we want. So
Great.
So that's there for you guys too.
Oh, Honor, you created that?
I love it.
No, I don't take credit for it. It's a creation of a team I'm on for the IREX Teachers for Global Classrooms program. I mean, I've contributed a lot to it, but we've all been working on it over the last year.
That's amazing. I literally just used it today. Like, I was like, whoever created this is heaven sent.
Oh, cool. Where did you find it, Natasha?
I found it in the our big folder under globalize. What's it called? Globalizing or globalization. That number.
It's in the SDGs folder.
Oh, it's in the SDGs. Okay, so it's right next to the SDG. Yeah, so it's right next to globalizing one. So the SDG one. I didn't know who created it. I was just like, oh, this is awesome.
That's amazing.
I actually used it in my college course.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wonderful. You see, this is amazing.
We do a whole, we do this simulation, this cultural simulation, and the SDGs are a really big part of that. So this was so helpful. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to give whoever gave me this a big hug. It came at the right time.
Virtual hug, Honor.
Yes, virtual hugs for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else have any tools that they are finding very useful?
I'll share one that I'm using in my classroom. People might, it's just Flipgrid.
I love Flipgrid.
Yeah, it's so basic, but it can be used in so many different ways. So if anybody's not familiar with it, it's just you as the administrator of the group can set up a question, and in my class, each of the students are a user, and they can sign in and answer the question by recording a little video of themselves. And as the administrator, you can set the time limit, and there's all different, settings and stuff. But then they can watch each other's if you allow them, and I can watch each one. We can project some to share good examples. So like I've used it for assessment. I've used it for them to share ideas. I've been using it like across all subjects. Go ahead. What?
You can display it like this too, like everyone's videos.
Where you can
yes,
see them all.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's not a new tool, but it's something that is really engaging my kids this year. I'm finding that each year technology is, a requirement more and more.
Yeah.
To keep attention and to keep engagement. And so it's a good quick one. It's not like they're on their Chromebooks for a half hour to do it.
Which is good.
It's a quick 10-minute thing. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. And then I'm going to put this in here. I'll I'll link to it again, but if you haven't had a chance to look, Teach with Tech, I think it's called. Jennifer Gonzalez's Gonzalez. Oh, I'll have to double check on that. But she creates this huge document on all this kind of educational technology that is working in classrooms and in planning. So that would be also a really good tool to use, at least components of it. Natasha, I think that you've shared this with some of your participants this year already, where you definitely have to take it in bite-sized chunks because there's a lot of information out there. But if your team is interested in, and frankly everybody should be, utilizing technology in some way or another, this is a great tool to just find it. And it's got a little narrative about how to use it, where to use it, and some examples on what it looks like in the classroom. So if you haven't had a chance to scoop through that, I will link it in here again for later. Any other thoughts? Okay, so let's talk about your coaching models. Last time we talked about, and Ross, I'm sorry you didn't get to see this, but last time so at our little coaching retreat, we all started thinking about what our coaching model looked like. And then in between that and the first meeting, everybody kind of created their own version of a model and how that plays out during the sessions. And so last time we talked about those and shared them as a visual and talked through them. So I just wanted to reflect on those and see how the flow of your sessions have changed now that you have an established model. If you can stick with what you originally thought or with what you originally created, and if you've had to modify it at all.
I was using the SMART goal as a model to start with, but I think as I quickly realized with my team at the first day is that they weren't interested in long time planning and thinking about things. They wanted quick answers as to what to do next week in the classroom.
Sure.
And so I had to kind of rethink what that would look like, because every week doing that was getting a little bit much for them. They weren't having time to go in and think about it as I wanted them to. So I really had to rethink how this model was going to look and approach it from a different way. So I think now, I'm just kind of making mental notes as to how this has kind of progressed along. And I think I'm going to have to adopt a new model for schools like this that just really need quick answers.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to get things done they're planning week by week.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting time to have, them reflect and think about things and plan long-term, but they wanted things to happen very quickly.
Yeah. Well, and that part of that is the difficulty of meeting every 2 weeks, right? Is that like the time when you're together is so precious because you have to reflect and then you also have to provide new ideas and whatever so that they can implement, which is a little bit of an issue. Not that we would ever be able to move to a weekly coaching session, although I wish we could, but it does make it difficult to really be a part of the work when you only see them twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shana, that was the biggest change for me, the flow. And I think it was a suggestion that came from you is in those early sessions to front end load, where even though we got off to a late start in terms of when they came on board, we did back to back to back to back. We had 4 weeks in a row.
Love it.
Every week with a very structured agenda. And because of that, I feel like we made better inroads in a number of ways, just the knowledge piece, but also seeing lots of examples, answering lots of those front-end questions, so that now, after only a month, they're into production. And so it came along a lot faster. And now I feel like we can pull back a little bit. But that part of it changed certainly the flow a lot.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I definitely think we should talk more about that this year to see if maybe that's how we should approach the kickoff to the year. It's great for building relationship and rapport. It's great to get through that nitty gritty of personal development and into the work without letting 6 or 8 weeks go by before you're like, okay, now let's talk about what's happening in your classroom.
I also feel better able to cope with the holidays, because the holidays are always just rough.
Yes.
But we made enough gains before it. So I feel comfortable.
Great. Good thoughts on that. Yeah.
I want to just tag onto that because I think the same thing might be beneficial at the beginning of the spring semester.
Okay.
For some of the same reasons. I mean, at least so far in my experience with this work.
Yeah.
The majority of schools have wanted like a project each semester or even more than that. But then in addition to that, the end of the school year gets difficult. Things start getting rescheduled a lot more around April testing season and all the other things happening. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for it. As long as, it works for the flow of your team and you're still hitting those 20 sessions. If you do, 4 in a row and then ease back a little bit or whatever it is, I think that's great. And then also it kind of goes with the flow of the project, right? Like, and sometimes there's just no need to meet if they're in the middle of the project, fully in the middle, and all the planning has been done and the teachers are just writing it out. You don't need to meet, but you do need to meet really, quite frequently in the beginning when they're planning the project and have all of those questions. And then at the end as well, after they do the deliverable and you have the reflection and consider how you might rework this for the following year. So there is a natural ebb and flow to the work that the coaching cycle, I think, should also emulate. if it works for your team. Any other thoughts? Okay, we still have a couple on here that we're still missing, but that's okay. Just put them on here whenever you get a chance, and then once we have them, we can spend some time talking about them. Okay, Nathan, good to see you, buddy. Nathan,
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. That's right. Hi, Susan. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining. We are just getting into, do you actually, is that something? I don't know. Do you want to give a little check-in about kind of what has your attention right now, Susan, and what's going on? And it could be coaching, it could be life, it could be just in general.
Sure. Well, I have a broken leg for starters, so that's making things a little more slow going. And my Uber driver got lost on the way with my knee in the back, so it's a funny season in life. But she was from Kenya, and we had a lovely conversation, and I brushed up on a little Swahili.
Nice.
Anyway.
Rainbows. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
But with regard to the VCIs, I've got 3 right now. One is an individual, and we've been working for a few years, Pia, in Denver, and she's still working on curriculum mapping, and she's doing really well. Our goal, though, is to get everything that she's doing with pen and paper onto a digital format. So that's the challenge and the goal right now. And then Fountain Valley, I've got 2 teams there. So one team is working on revamping they call it their Chapter 1 curriculum. So it's the course that they do for freshmen, and it's been in place for a long time, and they're realizing that it's outdated. So they're focusing more on mindfulness and so on, and really just taking that and running with it. So it's going really well. The third is a capstone team, and Sheena is aware of this, but they're a good team, but they aren't getting the support they need from admin as far as logistical direction. So they're a bit at a standstill, a little bit of a gridlock. And what I think we're going to start to do is some individual coaching within the team with the logic model that I showed you all at our. So to take them through the logic model and see where they can go with their individual projects that they're running until they get more support from admin.
That's great. Yes, nice work.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about the coaching tools for this time that I wanted to include. I'll open them on here so that you can see. First one is called Mind the Gap. And this is a really useful tool I have found when working with teams, basically. It helps you to identify learning needs of your teams, right? And so basically, it's saying that any person on any given place in their journey has a gap, most likely in one of these areas. Either it's a skill gap, a knowledge gap, a capacity gap, a will gap, a cultural competence gap, or an emotional intelligence gap. And so you yourself can use this in a way where you're talking to your team and you are recognizing that what you're hearing from them is a skills gap or a knowledge gap, right? Like those 2 are probably the easiest gaps to fill in terms of helping your teams move forward. The one I think that we see least often is a will gap, right? Like generally speaking, the intention is there. It's not for lack of will that teachers can't implement something or can't move forward. It's because there's something else that's in the way. So you can use this with your teams. If you use this language with your teams, you can, put this up on your screen and say, okay, so we are struggling with this, right? Like we aren't able to move forward. Where do you think the gaps are right now? And let them analyze themselves. And then also in the same time, you're doing some analysis too. Hopefully those 2 will match up. If they don't, you could, like you might have a teacher that says, I just have a capacity gap. I just can't do it. I don't have time. I don't have time to look for the resources. I can't do it. But you might think that they actually have a knowledge gap or a skills gap, right? The knowledge gap is probably going to be the one that's maybe more against their ego in terms of them not knowing something well enough to teach it. So being aware of that. Skills gap is just is an easy thing to fill, and that's pretty much what our role is anyway, is honing in those pedagogical skills of teaching. So I think this is a really good tool to use. And I think that this helps give voice to things that your participants might not even acknowledge in themselves, and give them some language to use about how they're feeling about things. Any questions on that?
That's good.
Okay.
Jana, I just came from a corporate coaching session, and I was able to, your delivery of this tool was so timely, and I thought, I think that he could use this.
Awesome.
And so we used this, and it was really apropos. So I wanted to thank you for that. And the way I framed it was in a Maslow's context. So to say, you can't have the top without the bottom. And I asked him where he thought he needed to grow, and he went right to emotional intelligence, which I thought was really powerful, because I don't think he would have done that had he not seen this language.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, just giving people the vocabulary to say, oh, yeah, and also to see it in a formula like this, where it doesn't feel so, you're not so isolated, like, oh my gosh, it's just me, I can't do this. Oh, wow, well, this is where I fall. And that's really manageable because I have all these other pieces. That's great. That's great, Susan. I'm glad to hear that.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I shared this with a team of my organization that I work with, and they loved it. So thank you for that. But I just literally I'm just staring at this, and is this hierarchical or no? Like when I first saw it, I didn't think it was when I was going through it, and I use it from time to time. But now that I'm looking at it, and when she mentioned Maslow, that made me think about this. Is this actual, like, the cultural competence, emotional intelligence, like the foundation, and builds from there? Is that the premise of it?
I mean, I think that there would be people that would argue yes, and then I think that there would be people that say no. Like, to be fully well-rounded, you have to have, the gaps full of all of these. But I personally think that you do have to have a solid foundation of the cultural competence and emotional intelligence to build from, and that those are absolutely more difficult gaps to fill than a skill and knowledge, or even capacity, to be honest, because those things are just very transactional, whereas cultural competence and emotional intelligence are like, that is some deep stuff, and in terms of trying to help somebody come to an awareness of those things, and then actually move through that awareness towards some sort of progression of filling those gaps. That's some tough work. Other thoughts? Okay. The other one that is a good one to use, which I actually used with some people on my teams this week, is this idea of spheres of control. How can I make this smaller? Let me see. And this basically helps in the same vein of helping your team when you feel like they're spiraling out. Like Susan has a good example of that. The one team that she has right now, their hands are a little bit tied in the work that they're trying to do, because they need the powers that be to give them their blessings to move forward, right? So using this with that team is really helpful, because helping somebody understand what they actually have control over versus what they have influence over, because those are not the same thing. And then what they have no control over and no influence over is where they need to stop investing their energy and then really focus on those two inner circles. And so just kind of laying it out and walking them through that, and allowing them to see where they're spending their time and their energy, where they should be spending their time and their energy, and how they might make that shift. Any thoughts?
Jana, this is that's similar to an activity that I've run before with groups called the power of like 3%, and it's the idea that teachers, or basically many people in an organization, really only control about 3%, and so it's this innovation activity where you think about, with my 3%, what could I do? What change could I make that would have a big impact? So
yeah,
it's kind of like even though they may feel like they don't have control over much, they can still do a lot with what they have control and influence over.
Yeah. And then also taking the time to really look at that, where you feel like I have no control over this, right? Like I can't make any progress with this because I have no control. But when you dive into that, really, allowing them to see where they do actually have a significant amount of control, and then what they can influence with that control, I think can help people move forward when they get stuck.
I mean, the good news is teachers usually have almost complete control over their classrooms, which is so much more than people in, large organizations typically have. So
that's true. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this before we dive into our role play, which I'm super excited about?
Kate, I'll say one. I was going to say one thing. In regard to the control, there's a tendency to want more control.
Yeah.
And in doing so, you often undermine exactly what you're trying to achieve. And by that, I mean, it's taking on more responsibility, trying to have control over more aspects of whether it's an organization or group, whatever that you're working with. It tends to water that down to the degree that you almost have to accept what it is you have control over and focus on that, so you get really good at it, as opposed to losing aspects by being a little bit too. I think it's again coming to a healthy acceptance of that reality. That is I think we all have a tendency to want to do more, influence more, control more, and in reality, it may not be the best thing for you or the organization. Anyway.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point. Okay, so if you are good, we can transition into our role play experience. Thank you, Jessica and Falwell, for your bravery in this moment. So basically, we haven't done this before, right? But I alluded to it in the last session, where we're going to have sort of a mock, I guess, scenario, and let Jessica and Falwell go through an actual coaching session and see how that rolls. So Jessica's going to play the coach. Falwell's going to be the participant. We're going to give them 10 minutes, and I'll time it, a 10-minute coaching conversation on the scenario below. The rest of us are just going to be silent observers, making sure to record what we like about how Jessica coaches him, and things about I wonder, in terms of I wonder, like, could you have said blah, blah, blah. Also, I find it helpful to make a note of what you might have said or done in a particular moment of the session to help give her some other ideas as well. So the scenario is this. So basically Falwell is going to be the disempowered teacher. Every time you turn around, there's something new, and now it's coaching, which is supposed to solve every problem in your school. You've been teaching for 8 years. You've done a good job in spite of constantly changing administrations, new standards, new assessments, new pedagogical approaches, etc. The last set of administrators have launched a whole new slew of programs and initiatives. In fact, they announced that your school has 12 top priority goals for this school year. You feel like a victim of unprepared and naive administrators, of the dysfunctional faculty culture, and of the overarching educational policy. You feel like you have a lot of experience. You know that what your kids need. You know what works, and you feel like your experience and expertise are not listened to. You're not enthusiastic about coaching. It's not what your school needs. It needs to focus on student behavior, you believe. Students are out of control. Admin isn't paying any attention to the right things, and you have no control over what's going on. You feel powerless, and you're starting to feel hopeless. Your coach is supposed to work with teachers on integrating technology and supporting English learners. The school received a grant to fund coaching in these two areas. You feel like this is a waste of your time and resources. Your strengths are that you've stuck through a lot of changes. You do care about the kids, and once you really loved teaching. And just for our background, this conversation is taking place in October, so this relationship is relatively new. Okay, how can I do this? I wish I could get Falwell and Jess on here, just the two of you, but I don't know how to do that.
Jess, be easy on me.
Be easy on me. I'm rusty.
You're not. You're going to be perfect. Okay, should I, just a question. Are you looking at Jessica's face, or are you looking at my Google Doc?
I'm looking at your Google Doc.
Okay, let me see.
Shayna, I think if the rest of us turn off our videos, then just the two of them will be left in the middle, if you want that for now.
Okay. Do you want to try that?
Sure, why not?
Okay, and then I'll just tell you when to video. Okay, so whenever you're ready, feel free to begin.
Jessica,
okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask how to make Falwell bigger, but I got it now.
It's an impossibility. I've been trying it my whole life. Splicing, something along those lines. And I sometimes hang. I just stretch as much as I can, but.
Well, you've got it now. You're in good shape now. At least on my screen.
Hey, Jessica.
All right. Should we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Hey, Falwell, how are you?
Hey, well, doing fine. Thanks.
So good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I missed you since the last time we talked a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I missed you too.
Thanks. So when we talked last time, you were talking about going to a concert or something with some friends. You were excited about that. How was it?
Unbelievable. Really was. Kermit Ruffins played at the DBA on Frenchman Street. Unbelievable show. I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah, if my class could be like that, it'd be a different story. It'd be a happier camper.
Well, what was awesome about it?
Well, who doesn't love Kermit Ruffins? He's unbelievable. He's like a younger version of Louis Armstrong, and his shows are always fun. Everybody was in a good mood. Everybody was dancing. There was an excitement there that you got to struggle with to get in your kids. You know, your kids to get that excited to want to dance and sing along. That would be nice. Maybe I should take them to the concert. I think there's an age requirement. I don't know. But yeah, it was the engagement, I guess, would be the word we use in the school world. It's like there was amazing engagement.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So do you have plans to go to another one?
Yeah.
Great.
Of course. Are you kidding me? I live in the
All right, cool. You'll have to keep me posted about that.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into our work today. I've been thinking a lot since we talked last time, and I kind of left you with some things to think about, and you also, thank you very much, left me with some things to think about. So I wondered if we could start today with a little 3, 2, 1, and I'll do it along with you. Okay. So we're going to talk about 3 students that made you smile today, 2 teaching successes from today, and then 1 challenge. And I'll remind you as we get to each thing. So do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
It's a little coachy. It seems like one of those, I don't know. It seems, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, you started off. Great. Thank you for being willing.
Yeah. April made me smile. So I need 3 students that made me
3
smile.
3 students that made you smile today.
Yeah, April definitely made me smile. She asked a question that kind of just caught my attention, and it was a good question, no prompt. She just asked it. Jimmy was actually, he's usually way off base, and he was on task the entire time, and stayed in his desk. He didn't he wasn't squirming and stuff. So that was all positive. And trying to think if there was anybody else.
Could even have been someone in the hall. Doesn't even have to be in your classroom.
Well,
maybe cafeteria.
There's some work that I think the kids are legitimately proud of, and that's not always the case. So there's a whole, unfortunately, not all of them are my kids, but yeah, they seem really proud of their work. We put it up in the hallway. We've got a rubric set up. We gave them feedback, and they actually seemed to take an interest in the work and the feedback that they were given. So I guess those are my 3 biggies, my 3 big positives.
Awesome. Love those smiles. All right. So mine were, I've got 3 boys in my class that are, you know, how that goes sometimes. Ben and Bryson and Richard. And so all 3 of them made me smile today because they demagnetized from each other, and they all did their own work, and they all felt really proud about their own work. So that those 3 boys made me smile today. Mm-hmm. All right. 2 teaching successes from your day.
I stopped using KWLs a long time ago, just because it seemed like something you only do with elementary, and since I'm teaching older kids. But I did it the other day because of a lesson that came up, and it still worked, and it still, I think it was successful. So that was awesome. That was positive. You mentioned music at the beginning of this. I played a song that was a story, and I had the kids listen as opposed to just reading a story. They were listening to a story. They didn't like the music, but they listened to the story, and I think they got enough of it to pick out the main pieces of what made it a good story. So I thought that was successful.
2 huge successes.
You know the song awesome. Message in a Bottle by The Police? You know that song?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a great, it's got that, that wonderful twist. Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of really a downer at the end, and the kids were kind of bummed too. They're like, "Wow, that's really yeah." So anyway, they was like, "Is that symbolism, Mr. Dunbar?" And I was like, "Not exactly, but good use, at least good attempt at using the word symbolism." So yeah.
All right, success. I hope you've noted those somewhere for yourself. Celebrate those.
Yeah.
You should.
I've been doing this for a long time. I don't know. Somebody told me I should keep in my drawer all of those nice letters that teachers and parents and kids write, and I stopped doing it a few years ago. I've been, I guess, been doing this too long. Maybe, I don't know.
Never too long.
Yeah.
Sometimes going back and reading those, though, when you're having a challenge or one of those down days is the best. It reminds you why you're doing what you're doing. All right, 2 teaching successes from my classroom today. I have one student who is really just struggling with organization, and today, without my reminding, he remembered to write down his homework, and he had it all accurate. That was like, yes, all the organizational talks I've been doing with him were like finally sinking in. And also have an ESL student in my class, and she has been very shy. And so kind of watching her start to come out of her shell and watching the other students in my class, their kindness towards her, really felt like a success. Like the community that I've built for all of my students, but particularly for that one, was a success. All right, so how about a challenge? One challenge.
Does it have to be a challenge for my kids in my class? Because I've been doing this for 8 years. I feel like I got it down. I'm getting frustrated with administrative stuff. It seems like every other year, every time a new administrator comes in, be it a principal or division head, they throw a whole bunch of things on my plate. And I end up spending a lot of time doing that when I should probably be spending time focusing on my kids in my class. And that's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a distraction. And I feel like I'm not necessarily respected in that sense. And that, I don't know. It's frustrating. I feel a little overwhelmed and a little bit bothered by the fact that I don't. Our principal, our new principal, 2 years, says we want to be a professional learning community. Everything's got to be a professional learning community, and I felt like we did that probably 4 or 5 years ago. And if we're still thinking about it now, it obviously didn't work, and it didn't help me do my job any better. So I don't know. That's not the challenge you were looking for. You were looking for.
No, I did not give parameters. So that if that is the challenge that you thought today or that you experienced, then yeah, that's your challenge.
If you look at my kids, the assessment, their little bell curve is nice. It's actually it leans toward more kids getting it than less. So I feel like I'm doing my job. I don't know.
Let's circle back to a little bit of that in just a minute. To round this out, I'm going to share my challenge. My challenge is with some of the technology in my classroom, which I've been asked to implement, and the tools don't work as well as they need to in order to implement it fully. So that was my challenge today.
Yeah, we have that challenge as well. We got new smart boards. They updated our smart boards, and now it's like a just interactive flat screen TV. And I told them, I said, I've been using a smart board. This isn't all that different, and I don't feel like I need to do 10 more sessions of professional development on how to get more out of a smart board just because it's a flat screen as opposed to a projector and a screen. I don't know.
How do your students interact with that technology?
What's that? I'm sorry. I'm getting out of my. What's that?
How do your students interact with that technology?
Not a whole bunch differently. I mean, I think they oohed and awed when we first hung it up on the wall. So I guess that's nice, but it's still kind of the same interactivity kind of thing. It's not that different. I turn it on a little bit differently, but it's Yeah, they were a little bummed they didn't have a camera, but yeah, it's I don't know. They seem okay with it. I just
Yeah.
don't. I want to rewrite lessons for a new smart board based on a consultant coming in and telling me that I gotta use these new strategies. That's all.
Mhm.
I got lesson plans that are already made out.
Have you thought about accessing the online tools that already exist?
No, I mean, I suppose
Yeah,
one.
I'm happy to share some of those tools. They already exist. They probably look a lot like what you have done in the past. But I heard you in sort of two different instances already in this conversation talk about how you value engagement, right? So you talked about that at the concert, how you were having such a great time, and you said that the whole audience was engaged. And you also shared that when you talked in our 3-2-1 about one of your students, something that made you smile was that they were asking questions and they were engaged. And so I wonder if you could think about some ways that that new smartboard, the new technology, could increase some of that engagement in your classroom. Is there anything?
And I have to stop you because that was. I'm sorry because we were just getting into it. That was so good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, everybody, you can put your videos back on. How did that feel, Jess? How did you feel?
Oh, I felt good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, it was like awkward at first, but then
at first, right? It takes a minute to get into.
Tried to let it go.
Yeah. Follow. How did you feel?
I felt fine. I mean, it was I loved the fact that there were no. It wasn't like an awkward pause. Just because you started with those questions in that order. It gave me a structure to whether I was enthusiastic about it or not. There was a structure there to get us communicating. And then it allowed you, it also gave you a little material to work from, which I was really impressed at the very end. You were able to pull it back to the music at the beginning and the engagement. So you actually used what came up in the early activity. So I think that was effective, and it made me appreciate that from this angle. Okay, so yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. It was a bit of a bumpy start because Falwell was definitely being like grumpy, which I thought was great because grumpy faculty for sure who just don't want to be there. So I loved that.
That's never the case, Shana. You do realize the folks we're coaching and working with, they're never grumpy. They're never.
Oh, yes. Really? Need I remind you about your team last year? But I really appreciated that. Jess, I liked where it was going, and I wish we could have kept going because I liked how you
get the idea.
Brought it back to what he was excited about. I did hear a lot of him say, I've been doing this for 8 years. I know what I'm doing. I do it well. My administration doesn't, basically know what they're doing. We already tried that 4 years ago. If it didn't work then, why would it work now? Those kinds of things. And I thought that was all of that needed to kind of be deconstructed over time, which obviously would take way more than 10 minutes. But if you were working with him, where would his skills gap be, do you think? Or I guess where would his mind gap be at that point? Anybody, not just necessarily. But
I need to see that. I need the visual of that document.
Yeah, I mean, I have a sense of where those were. For me, and again, I don't know if I'm right on this. The will that you're kind of losing the will to keep trying new things or something, that you've gotten into a place where you're comfortable with what you do and how you do it, and then all of a sudden you're being told you have to do something new in a different way, and it's outside of that comfort zone. It's out of that's one of the words that we use, and it oftentimes is that growth mindset. That a little bit of that growth mindset has been sapped out of the person because of lots of cumulative experiences. And so how do you get somebody more engaged or motivated in that? It's a challenge we face with kids. But anyway, so I thought combination of the will and the emotional, not the emotional intelligence, but sort of, I don't know, that's where I was leaning. The skills and the knowledge are going to be part of if you're learning new technologies or new ESL techniques and so forth. It's a given, I guess, that you might feel like you have those skills, but you might not necessarily have them in a way that you could execute them in your classroom.
Yeah.
But
sometimes
I wanted to.
Oh, go ahead. Who's that?
It's me. I wanted to jump in. I have to go to a meeting.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It's
but, I just wanted to say that you guys are wonderful thespians. Thank you very much. But my sessions do not go that smoothly. The teachers barreling in with their computers. There's 5 of them, and they're very vocal, and they are just talking and talking. And then they look at me like, "What do you got?" And then it's like 20 minutes of, give me some ideas, okay, and then I give them ideas. They collaborate around the table, and then it's see ya. And then the kids come in, and they all say hi to me on the screen every day. And it's a quick, chaotic, it does not go that level.
Can you do us a favor and record your next session with them so that we can all watch?
So this one was a little bit more calm because I think they saw last time I had to dial them down, literally. I said, okay, why don't we just kind of take a beat here? Because it was just like, because they're in that mode because they're coming from class and they've got like 40 minutes and literally the kids usually all come in. They know me. Their 3rd graders know me. Because
that's awesome.
And it's really,
that's great.
It is awesome, but like I said, it's a really more chaotic type of flow than what the lovely exchange. That's what I would love to have, that type of exchange, but it's usually not that.
Do you think you could spend some time with them, like talking about norms or like setting expectations?
Good point.
I don't even know if we have time for that because
maybe that communication would have to happen over email or.
Yeah. And
so I send them a survey or I don't know, something.
I've set forth, those types of things for them, but it's still when they get on the call and we're in our meeting, they're ready for action.
Yeah.
So it's a very action oriented session, which I've really, adapted to. But if this is the way that your coaching sessions are looking, and this is the way that the expectation of how they should be, then I'm really not on that train.
You are doing great, Alicia. You are doing a phenomenal job. You have a tough team. It's your first one, so you have nowhere to go but up.
Thank you for that encouragement. On that note, I'm going to go. I have to head to this meeting, but it was great to see all of you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Bye. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Alicia.
I don't want to hold anybody because I know it's 4:03, and that ran a little bit over. But if and I would like to do more of these for sure. If you want to hang on and just share your thoughts, totally fine. If you want to share your thoughts on our email thread, totally fine. That way as well. Whatever works best for you is great by me.
Shana, I'm gonna have to leave too in a second. We're dismissing kids, and I gotta go check for you. But I think nobody got rolled over. But one thing I would say, and I learned this the hard way at times as well, is that more structure for larger groups is beneficial. And I think there's the free form. I think it's easier to play off one person very easily and kind of do what Jessica did with the person. When you have 2 or 3 or 4, adding structure and adding activities that keep folks focused on that end game, I think becomes a little bit more important. So I've been doing with my groups just a more structured agenda than I would with a single person.
Sure.
And the single person, it's like a counseling session where you're following them, whereas with the others, you're directing that group and trying to keep it coordinated and on task.
Yeah.
So more structure with larger groups, I think it can be helpful.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and if you want to share one of that as like a template structure for a group, that would be great. I'm sure Alicia would appreciate that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to leave. I got to go check direct traffic, but in the parking lot. But anyway, thanks everybody. I know. Bye guys.
Any hats. Thank you so much.
I'm going to have to scoot too. I got to get home to my kiddos, my own kiddos.
Yay! And enjoying that time. Thank you so much. We will do a little more
Thank
deep
you all.
on this next time we connect.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Everybody. Bye, Jess. See ya. Thanks for popping on. All right. For the remaining people, are you going on about your day, or you want to hang for a little bit and talk about that, or what are you thinking?
I'm gonna get going to another meeting as well.
Great. Thank you. Be careful on your scooter.
Oh, thank you.
And please take a picture.
Lots of good stories coming of all of this.
Susan, you are not allowed to ride a scooter. When did you start doing that?
She's not. She broke her leg.
I'm on a knee scooter.
Look at his face.
Knee scooter. Good. That's good. I thought you were riding a real scooter
There
like
it
on a
is.
street. Okay,
No.
great. I'm sorry to hear about your knee, but I'm glad it's not a real scooter.
Hold on, did she break something?
Yes, her leg.
How did you break your leg?
Where was I?
Oh, she mentioned it, but her voice was muted when she said it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I broke my leg in the middle of the woods during a dance party, jumping off of a picnic table after an 8-mile hike.
So good.
So I've got a plate and 6 screws and a bunch of wounds.
Oh,
So much.
only
So much metal.
Susan.
Ugh.
Only Susan Lambert.
It's only temporary.
It is only temporary.
That is true.
That is
All
true.
right.
Amen
Bye,
to that.
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Good to see you.
You too.
All right. Everybody else good?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Honor, keep us in the loop about your daughter.
I will. Thank you.
Okay.
She'll be, yeah. Yeah, and you keep me in the loop about my school too, please. Let me know.
You're fine. I'll email you back right now. Everything is great. You're
Okay.
amazing. And I'm so happy to work with you. You are great. I'm going to send you a follow-up email on that, but
Okay.
everything is great. Thank you. Thank you. See you later.
Okay.
Natasha.
Bye, Natasha. Bye, Honor.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving and happy
Yes.
holiday.
Thanks,
The
girl.
rest of them.
Thank
Honor, I
you.
love your background. Bye,
Oh,
everybody.
thank you. Bye.
Okay,
Everybody have a good
bye.
week.
Bye. You too.
Yeah.
Bye. Okay.